Bucharest is a little bit like an oven at the moment. So it's about 40
So
degrees,
I think the
40
definition
degrees.
of oven also you're 40 degrees. Okay, that's like New Delhi.
Correct.
So we are live on YouTube, and we should be starting in I think another 10 seconds. Give me 1 second. My phone needs to be. Oh God, this is technology. Apologies. I was so proud of what I did.
Yeah.
What you have to do is you have to
Now it's kind of frozen.
say to everybody, please don't call me. In the whole world, that's what you need to do. And
Oh,
then you'll be okay.
Yes.
His image was also frozen, so
I will change.
I think so. Go back to the
Okay.
trusted format.
Absolutely. So it's 3:29 and we go live in another, I think, 20 seconds. We have around 100 odd participants right now, 20 on Zoom and another 80 on YouTube. So Mark, should we start?
I'm ready.
Fantastic. Poonam, you all set?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. So good afternoon, participants. Good afternoon, teachers, students, and everyone on the Yogananda Guru series today. My name is Atul Khosla, and I welcome you to this wonderful session with my very dear friend, Mark Wallace. Mark is founder and CEO of MWRS. It is a risk and business advisory services company. It's a global firm. He talks and I think speaks to some of the richest people in the world, but we'll come to that later, Mark. We'll find out all the secrets of how the rich people in the world are talking and thinking. But to me, I got to know Mark around 15 years back or 10 years back. Yeah, probably 15 years back, actually, 2005, 2006. He was a client of mine and used to be with Credit Suisse in those days. Mark is a very senior banker. He's been part of Credit Suisse and UBS. He's been an investment banker, hedge fund manager, but a lovely, lovely human being. Also very fond of his wine and food. And again, we'll talk about that, though that's outside the script, we'll talk about that. Yeah, it's your double chin, Mark, I know. We also have with Mark and me, we have Mrs. Poonam Nanda. Poonam is Dean Student Welfare at Shulini University. We all know her as Yuvraj Singh's aunt. And we'll be talking about UV also today. Mark is a dear friend. And by the way, Mark and I have had the luxury of watching one World Cup match between South Africa and West Indies together. So I think that's Mark's discussion. Mark has spent all his life in risk, and we speak about financial risk. But there's risk everywhere. There's risk in health, and I think Mark will cover that. There's risk in our finances. There's risk in happiness, as Mark says. And what could be a better topic than risk in today's very risky world of post-COVID? So Mark, tell us where you are speaking from today. Tell us more about the city. Tell us more about the history.
I'll do that, but I also just want to quickly comment on, you call me a Scot, which life is about context. So originally, I am from a Scottish family. That's right. So William Wallace, born around 1270, what we call that now, Common Era. But actually, I've got a big Irish family, grown up in the UK, but you're right, there's some Scottishness there. In terms of where I am right now, I'm in a city called Constanta, which is on the Black Sea in Romania. It's formerly called Tomis, which is a Greek name. It was founded 600 BCE, so it has a lot of history. I'm here because it's nice, okay? The sun's shining, but there's a breeze, a little bit of wind, so it's not 40 degrees like it is in some of the cities in Europe. And it has an 8-mile-long beach. Some of you may have heard of something called Never Sea, which is for the people who like music. 4th largest port in the EU, but militarily and strategically important. So the US 6th Fleet come here from time to time. There's an RAF, it's Royal Air Force UK air base here. And there's a canal from the seaport through to the Danube River. Danube is the largest river in the EU. And so from a trade perspective, I'm in a very important location. Not viewed as important because Romania only became independent, really. You could talk about that because it's part of the EU now, in 1989. So the history of the new Romania is actually not that long.
You know, it's very interesting you speak about Romania, and we'll come to risk in a second. In India, we read a lot about Western Europe, but we don't know much about Eastern Europe. So could you tell us a bit about Romania before we get into the topic of risk? Tell us in the context of, let's say, a country like the UK, how large are you population-wise? Where exactly are you located? And from an economics perspective, what really makes it Romania tick? Sure.
No, I'd be delighted to do that. So Romania is about the same size as the United Kingdom. And that includes all the way up to the north of Scotland, including the northern part of Ireland. It has right now, because of the COVID lockdowns, sadly, about 23 million people. So the UK is about 70 million people. It's a country which has a lot more features than some people might imagine. So has a beach, has a big city, has mountains, the Carpath Mountains up in Transylvania. Probably most people, when you say Romania, they say, Dracula Castle. But it has a lot of history, but it's been invaded many times. So to have its own identity, it had it from about 1890 to the start of the First World War. And then from that point until 1989, it lost its independence, but now it's independent again and it's starting to grow. Strengths are people are well educated. People are normally pretty physically fit and healthy. And there's good levels of technology. And then there's an education heritage, which is deep and strong.
Fantastic. I'm sure it's a beautiful place too. And, for the audience over here, Mark is also a distinguished professor at Shulani. So hopefully I'll get the opportunity of visiting Romania. I'll find an excuse. Probably I'll carry a paycheck, Mark, whatever little that is, and stay with you. Okay, so let's come to the topic, which is risk. So what risk do we face, Mark?
Yeah, I think about risk all the time. I think most people do, actually. I think most people do. You're expecting me to talk about financial risk and, what goes on in banks and money managers. But you know what? For me, the main risks in life and the main things we face is to keep ourselves healthy and happy. Okay, there is an expression, health, wealth, and happiness. Now, I don't actually rate wealth as number 2 in life's needs, but because of the British and also the Irish predilection for expressions which alliterate, health, wealth, and happiness has stuck. And I mean health, wealth, and happiness for yourself, okay, but your loved ones and your family. So those are the main things, the main risks we all face, and we try to manage. But I think one point on risk, which maybe not everybody always appreciates, is there is also a do nothing risk. So if you think about life, if you haven't got information, you're not watching the news. If you don't know, for example, that a hurricane category 4, 5 is heading your way, and you don't do anything and you stay where you are, you're actually taking more risk than being active. Okay, and to bring it over to the financial domain, keeping your money in cash right now, especially in the so-called US, Europe, Northern Hemisphere, It's probably, I would say, actually a strange thing to do right now. And people who have a lot of cash are having to pay their bank to keep their cash safe for them at the moment. So that's the main point I'd highlight that maybe people don't always appreciate.
So how should we approach risk? I mean, you spoke about different types of risk, and of course, you're an expert in financial risk. But before you go into financial risk, what's your approach to risk in life in general, Mark? And then would love to hear a few thoughts on financial risk, because especially if you look at India, I mean, people work very hard. The economy in terms of per capita income is not as high. So we all have to protect our money so that we can retire effectively and comfortably. So how should we approach risk from all the three parameters you spoke about?
Okay, thank you. It's 2020, okay? So everybody now has information. Everybody can be an expert on anything or everything they choose. And when we look at risk, financial risk management, I think, my view, everyone, if they choose it as their profession, they need, or they should aspire to be world class, okay? And world class is something that I always talk about with people I've ever worked with, who work for me, from a mentoring perspective, etc. But the important thing about world class is you have to know what world class is.
Mm-hmm.
The next point, I think we're going to show a little clip, and this is world class before you press the play button, whoever's pressing the play button. Just a little bit of setup. It's 2007, so it's a little bit longer ago than people would think maybe. It's the first T20 World Cup, okay, in South Africa. It's Kingsmead Stadium, Durban. It's the Super 8s stage. India are playing England, okay, England, pretty good team, you know, pretty competitive.
Yes.
And the bowler to this batsman, who you know very well, Poonam,
Yes.
is Stuart Broad, okay? He was 21 years old, so, you know, very healthy, very fit, very, very fast. He's now still playing. In fact, he's just started in the third test match in Manchester, and he's closing in on 500 test wickets. He's number 7 in the world. And I would just say one thing that was actually reported on the BBC this morning. If you're world class, you can surpass everything. And also anger can provide a burst of energy. So if we look at the clip and you follow what happened, I think you'll see that anger actually plays a part in what happens next.
And
Let me play the clip, but before that, Poonam.
yeah, I was saying, yeah, this is the same player, UV had a chat with his father, and Stuart's father told Yuvraj that you almost finished my son's career yesterday, and look at it, it's 2020 and he's still playing.
Yeah.
Here you go.
I wouldn't bother you, Vraj, if I was you.
Broad into his final over. That's huge. That is a biggie. It's out of here.
Into orbit. Even bringing smoke in the clouds, this. Off the bat, it's still in there. We've lost it. There it is again. That's a biggie. Keep going.
I think those few words with Flintoff just charged him up a bit. 6 more. Just a flick of the wrist. Consecutive sixes here for the left-hander.
Magnificent hitting this. You've right, we saw him on the boundary edge. Get me in. Just a flick, nothing more.
This is in the air again. Clears long off, 3 in a row.
It's raining sixes here. Kingsmead, there's another. Look at the technique. Right foot out of the way. Full swing of the bat. Juvraj, 32 from 9 deliveries.
Now around the wicket. Will it make a difference? It doesn't. It's 4 in a row.
Here it is again. Yuvraj Singh, 38 from 10 deliveries.
5. Yes. 30 with 1 ball to go. Could he make it 6 out of 6?
Would you believe this? Clean as you like. Here he goes again. Yuvraj Singh, 44, 11 deliveries. It's up there somewhere.
Kingsmead on its feet. So is the commentary box. And here goes Broad. Last ball of the innings. And he's put it away. Oh, has he? Yes, into the crowd. 6 sixes and then over.
Get out of here, Yuvraj Singh. Look at that. I've seen hitting not like this. Massive. Absolutely massive.
Oh God.
I can't tell you how proud I feel. And it still gives me goosepimples.
Goosebumps, yeah. And I only looked away the one time. I managed to watch it all the way through as a proud English cricket fan.
Yes, I understand.
You know, before we go into Mark's discussion, Poonam, tell us, were you watching this match? You know, for the audience, Poonam is Yuvraj Singh's aunt, his Masi, as we call it in Hindi.
Yes. Sagi Masi.
So how did it feel, you know, watching this? And this was just an amazing moment.
I just cannot tell you how we felt that day. Honestly, I mean, it was like something was happening in outer space. I mean, hitting 6 sixes and 1 over, it was unbelievable. This child has given us some amazing moments and we've been so proud. This one, then winning the World Cup, being the man of the series over there. Just superb.
Over to you, Mark.
Yes.
So I think you're probably realizing I enjoy sport.
Yes.
I enjoy sports, at all sports actually, at a world-class level, but also at a community level. So, you know, I've got a number of children. I love following sport when they played it, and I like following sport now. So the town I was born in, you know, they're playing soccer, they're playing football. It's coming to the end of the season. I'm having a great time following that journey for them. And I try and draw on examples from world-class sport to help explain risk management. You know, everyone, I think, can draw on examples to help in their chosen profession from whatever interest they have in their lives. And I mean, I can say quite categorically that I build my life around the sporting calendar.
So Mark, you know, just focus a little now on the financial risk management side of it. I mean, that's a topic, right? FRM, as we call it.
Oh yeah, I knew. You want me to talk about what I do? Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Atul. Yeah, what's important? Okay, so we're talking about trying to have enough money. Okay, enough money to provide for yourself, your friends, your loved ones, your family, and just a few points in terms of what's more important. Is it your money or the firm you work for's money? Or is it your client's money or your family's money? And I think it's the latter, okay? So if you're looking at risk management, I think it's more important to build a world-class risk management system around money that you're looking after, if that's your job, on behalf of your clients, on behalf of your family and the generations to come. I also think it's very, very important to segregate money. So your own money, your own firm's money, from your client's money. And some people don't remember that. And then the third point I would say about financial risk management is the need for fairness. So quite often when you're looking after money, or firms looking after money, an efficient way is to put that money into a fund, or what's called a mandate in a wealth management company. And that's where you have, technical terms, more than one shareholder. So you have more than one client is invested in that fund. Then you have to be scrupulously fair, and you have to be seen to be fair, and you have to be scrupulously fair all of the time. So those are my overall, I'm a Brit, okay? So
but that's nowhere near any
top down.
Yeah, it's very top down. You know, we need to know more about financial risk. How should what sort of a career is there? Tell us more about it, Mark. How do we manage? How would you manage financial risk? Is giving money to professional wealth managers safe in today's world? We'd love to know more.
Okay. You're correct that I should give you some more detail. I just wanted to try and set the scene a little bit. I think that there is a simple explanation, particularly for a money manager. I thank UBS for this explanation. I worked for UBS for 17 years, so maybe I had something to do with distilling things down. It's called the 3 L's, okay? So the first L is liquidity, cash. Do you have money to go and buy some water, to go and get yourself some food, to pay for things that you like doing, and things you like doing enough during your lifetime? That's really key. It's really key, as I said earlier on. Right now, holding on to cash costs money, you know, and that's a complete change, I think, for most people, teenage and above in the world. But that's the first pocket, I would call, of money. The second one is longevity. Okay, and I'll talk about that again towards the end. Longevity means that you need to have money that works and you have on hand, and you can generate, if you get into the happy position of having some wealth, which can build on itself. But you need to work out, you know, these days, people, they tend to live, you know, a lot longer than they used to. So, you know, yourself and your family and your loved ones, you need to make sure that if you decide to stop working and then you've got a pot of money that you're going to live from, you've got to make sure that that's going to last. You know, you don't want to,
Long enough.
you know. So that's the second one. And then the third one is legacy, the third L. Legacy is all about if you've done okay in your life, but you want your family, your friends, your loved ones to do well, and their children and their children's children. There are some ways of building a legacy, and that's something that I now spend more and more time on, helping people I work with to ensure that, okay, you've had a good time. You need to enjoy life, but you know, how about building something for generations that come after you? The next piece, and I am getting more and more precise at all. I think it's very, very important to measure risk. So get things roughly right, okay? Not precisely wrong. If you can measure risk in a way where you know you've got the direction correct, so you know that if the pound goes up, that's a good thing for you. The equity market goes down, sometimes that can be a good thing for you. If you've got the direction of the risk right, then you're starting to get to the right place, and then you try and get a little bit more to estimate it a little more accurately. But you know what? You need to be absolutely precise when you explain risks, to clients and to families and friends, because not everybody chooses risk as their profession. Things happen, you know. The sad events of COVID back in March this year had a big impact on everybody in the world, but it also had a big financial market impact. But you know what? That financial market impact was not a big market crash like 2008, 1929. And as everybody's seen, financial markets have recovered quite nicely. Not to say they won't fall back again, but explaining that carefully and precisely to family, friends, clients is important, and really disclosing that properly, having meetings, saying, okay, look, the markets have moved against you, the portfolios are down, but we really think that you should stay there, stay invested.
We seem to be getting there. I love a little bit of detail. I loved your liquidity, longevity, and legacy. 3 L's. I'm going to remember this. I think, wow, what a framework, Mark. You know, when we think about risk as professionals, there are lots of MBA students here, lots of faculty members who teach business. We normally think about advanced mathematics, we think about quantitative models, and many of us might not be very good at that, you know. So how much of managing risk is about mathematics and quantitative skills?
No, that's a very good question at all. And I mean, there's no getting away from it, that in a number of areas, the so-called STEM education subjects, and having taken STEM subjects as part of your academic education, I'll be careful the way I say this, but especially for women and young ladies compared to men and boys. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics, those subjects and the attributes, they're very useful. But you know what? You do not have to be a rocket scientist. No way near that in order to be able to enter into risk management as a profession, financial risk management. But knowing how to find a rocket scientist can be useful from time to time. So if you're working in a big environment, big community, your ecosystem, if you have some very hardcore mathematicians, astronomers, you know, scientists, that's very useful. Economics, that's also very helpful. I mean, I remember my father, who used to drag me into work to do the ledgers, all in pencil. Those days, no calculators. And then he used to check that I'd done the addition correctly. And he knew it was a bit quicker, because I had a younger mind or something. I used to do the calculations quickly. He checked them. It's easier to check, quicker to check. Then he could go off and play tennis. Okay, so that was, but we were having a good time. And then 1973, 1974, wow. And I had no idea. My father came home one day and said, okay, look, sorry, we do not have money to go on holiday. We do not have money for a new car. You know, something's happened. And there's something that happened was in Israel, Palestine, actually, is what my father said, because he was in military service in Palestine just after the war. And that was the Yom Kippur War and the aftermath. Big shock through the financial system. My father's company worked in construction, went bankrupt straight away, and he had to find a new job. And I just said, wow, how can that happen? You know, what do we call this? An exogenous shock, okay? I had no idea, but I was at the right kind of age. I was just coming up to decide which British education system, A-level subjects I should follow, and economics, because it was an economic shock. So that was very, very helpful for me, actually. But research skills are key, okay? I mean, we can all Google everything, and you can get information on anything at all straight away. But, you know, the veracity of that information, I mean, is it right? Is it true? Is it maybe fake news, you know? Or is it good news? normally it's accurate, but being able to research quite quickly. So subjects like history, going back to original sources is useful. Law, obviously, being able to research a case, both sides, finding evidence. So history and law are good. Command of language. So I said earlier on, you can be roughly right, but you have to explain precisely, what risks people are facing, you're facing yourself, your family. So having some sort of command of language is very helpful, especially, I'm going to say the 3 big languages. And can I add the main language that people speak in India, which is not English?
Hindi.
Hindi, which I don't know a word of Hindi, but English, Spanish, Chinese, Hindi, okay, and the literature in those languages, I think really helps, because to find the right term sometimes to explain something to your partner, to your client, having a little bit of command of language is useful, and I'd even add French literature, could be helpful, even though I come from a country right next door to France, so we like to take a pop at the French from time to time. And then finally, the one that I think is very usual in the very top jobs in financial risk management, so chief risk officers, they often are physicists. So having a physics background, there's the theoretical skills, but maybe more importantly, there's the practical approach that a physicist takes, So sometimes you can do all the mathematics in the world and you've got a perfect theory and concepts and hypothesis, but does it actually work in practice? Is that what people are really doing? Is that what the information is telling us? So physics is important.
Wow, this is amazing. Normally we think MBAs or business professionals will end up becoming risk managers. So you're saying I could have studied, I could be a PhD in physics and I could become a risk manager, or I could even be a law graduate, or I could be a scientist, because these are all different skills that STEM students have. Before we get into the question of how do you actually manage this risk, financial risks, I'm just curious, Mark, if you were a young risk professional at Credit Suisse or UBS, somewhere globally, what sort of salaries would you make?
You see, that's a leading question, and that's also a surprise question, which is very
of course.
good.
Yes, we are good at throwing surprises.
I congratulate you. I'll give you the following answer. So Switzerland actually is a more egalitarian society, country than the US or the UK. Pick some other, maybe China as well, actually. So you can earn a very comfortable living working in Switzerland in risk management. And every year it's more than, for the most junior entrants, it's more than 100,000 Swiss francs, okay? Which
that's $100,000 for a little more than $100,000 for people.
Near enough, yeah. The exchange rate's normally 1-to-1 through my lifetime, and but it doesn't go up actually as far as you might think in Switzerland. So I used to enjoy working with people who I could bring in Switzerland, and of course, I'm a business person, got to be efficient. So some of the very senior jobs, I used to work with Swiss people because I didn't have to pay hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds and dollars and euros and Swiss francs too. So
there's a reason I was asking this.
Give you a feeling.
No, it's great. I knew the answer, but I think it's for the audience, because just to give you a sense, audience, $100,000 is around 80 lakh rupees per year. That translates to around 7 to 8 lakh rupees per month, which is in the Indian context quite a bit of money. And that's the whole power of people who manage risk. It's a great profession. And by the way, lots and lots of Indians out there put them in the risk department of most of the Swiss banks.
Yeah. Okay, I hope they are managing the risks well. And just before you get on to the next question, Atul, Mark was talking about languages and he said he doesn't understand a word of Hindi. But yesterday he sent me a video of a match that had a Punjabi song superimposed on it. Could you figure out what was going on, Mark? Yeah, but
Yeah, enough. Yeah, because I mean, in 2 or 3 things, it was celebration of a soccer team, a football team in England that's
yes, I
got back to its rightful place. You know, Leeds United, Yorkshire in England, and there's a song was made very quickly. There's some subtitles on the video.
Yes,
so
yes,
that helped. That helped me.
You know, it's always a tough job being a host to someone like Mark. So I have to bring him back to the topic, financial risk. Mark, so how do you manage financial risk?
So I'm going to ask one question of you guys. How long do I have? 10 minutes?
You have another half an hour. 20 minutes, let's say.
I'm going to try and do it in about 12 minutes. Okay, because I do have one more sporting clip to show everybody. Okay, so here we go. Financial risks. How do you manage them? First thing, risk appetite. The importance of risk appetite. Okay, everybody is different. Everybody. Every bank is different. Every client is different. Every family member is different. Every loved one is different. Okay, how much risk are you prepared to take with your money? Okay, some people, the answer is not very much. Okay, some people, it's a lot. And they can still somehow sleep at night. They can still sleep at night. But the point is, everybody has a different risk appetite. And that is the starting point when you're talking to anybody about money, how to manage their money, how is a firm going to operate? You know, it may be an industrial company doing extremely well, throwing off cash, and you say, okay, the treasury function and the company, what do you want to do with that cash? And a lot of treasurers will say, I'll keep that money in cash, thank you. But some treasurers will say, well, you know, I mean, we've got this cash, it's surplus, so maybe we invest it, and maybe they choose a money manager to help them with that. But the point is, everybody is different, okay? But you need to really work out what the risk appetite is for the portfolio or the person or the firm concerned. That's the first thing to do, I think. The second tenet is you have to be able to assess the risks in the portfolio or in people's lives, their money, what they're spending money on. Maybe they're spending a lot of money on some things they shouldn't, maybe, compared to how much money's coming in, you know. But the key is you need to include all of the risks. Okay, so, you know, going back to 2008, some of the most famous banks in the world had portfolios of whatever you want to call them. Toxic assets is what we call them after the fact, but before the fact, they were fantastic. They were assets that were generating unbelievable yield, you know, for everybody, for banks, for their clients. But the risk on those assets just wasn't included in the system that the banks had. And I mean, I'll call out, you know, the bank I used to work for, UBS. I'll also call out Citibank. I'll also call out Royal Bank of Scotland. Okay, they all had big portfolios which included risks that they were not even counting as part of their risks. So scope, and how to make sure everything's in the system. And don't always believe what people tell you. So, you know, sadly, some of the rating agencies said, you know, these assets are AAA rated, but of course they were not. The next one, the third one, measure your risks. Measure them, but don't measure them going back to my roughly right or being roughly correct is much better than being precisely wrong. I worked with a young gentleman who became my boss when I was in my 30s, but he was in his 20s, his mid-20s. His principle was, okay, well, what's the risk? What's the risk, Mark? I said, yeah, but this is very difficult. We've got to get a system. He said, no, come on. Is the risk 10? Is it 100? Is it 1,000? And of course, you know, working back then, he meant 10 million, 100 million, or 1,000 million, 1 billion. Okay, so if you can get there, then you can start to make your estimates more and more accurate. And you need to know also the direction of the risk. So if markets go up, is that a good thing for the portfolio, or is that a bad thing? And when you get into the more complicated instruments, derivative instruments, that's not always straightforward. It should be, but it's not always straightforward. He also said, and I have always said to everybody I've worked with, unless you really know, you know, you've invested in a fantastic company. So unless you're Warren Buffett, okay, who's unbelievable, the best investor maybe ever, avoid concentrations, okay? Unless you really know, avoid concentrated risks. And the one that's difficult, and I still think the most difficult, and although on the STEM side, there's been a lot of advancements, credit risks are still very difficult to measure accurately. Big portfolios that run into problems typically have got credit risk contained inside them. Credit risks, you have difficult problems that still haven't really been solved. Jump to default, you know, so measuring the probability of default under all conditions is still very, very difficult. That is something actually that the Basel Committee, the organization that looks after regulation of all banks and financial services, companies with a banking license globally, they're still wrestling with some of these calculations. So that's the third one. So it's risk appetite, include and assess all the risks, measure the risks. We've got 4 more. We've got time for 4 more.
Let's quickly go through them.
Here we go. So probabilistic approach. Okay, so use statistics a lot actually. Risk is seldom 0. Okay, getting out of bed in the morning, you can fall out of bed and hurt yourself. Okay, I mean, if you get out of bed, you're probably going to subject yourself to some risk. So being able to assess the probability of risks occurring is key. And then you also need to be able to add those risks together. And a thing I was also taught that when you join risks up, you aggregate risks. When you add them, 3 + 4 is not 7, okay, in a risk world. Some very brilliant people, theoretical physicists, will tell you that in a theoretically balanced portfolio, 3 + 4 = 5. Okay, you know, that's 0 correlation. You know, root sum and square. Okay, so 3, but that's not the right answer either in practical terms. The answer to 3 + 4 is somewhere between 5 and 7. Okay, but that's using statistics. That's using a lot of, can be quite hardcore mathematics, engineering principles. 3 more. I can see you're getting a bit edgy looking at the clock at all. Edge principle, absolutely key in business. Okay, if you have an edge, go for it. Okay, stay in your lane though. You know, diversify the risk in your portfolio, but diversify into areas where you have some expertise and some experience. The moment you start to drift away from what you know, you can run into problems. And I worked very closely for a long time with a fantastic trader in UBS, and he left and set up his own hedge fund. unbelievable guy, don't get me wrong, but he drifted away from what he was really good at, and he came unstuck, unfortunately. But edge, normally there's an edge in most things you do. Two last things. Technology, obviously, I think, you know. So Siemens has said the last couple of days, news on LinkedIn today, you can work from anywhere, okay? And they told their staff all around the world, I think it's Bangalore in India, 2 or 3 days a week, you can work from anywhere you like, actually. But the only reason you can do that is because of technology. And you can be a risk manager from anywhere in the world, working for a firm that can be somewhere completely different in the world, my view. Last one, world-class talents. So go back to world-class. Motivated, enthusiastic, hard-working people who enjoy life, enjoy working hard from wherever in the world, you can find them. From wherever in the world, you can find them.
Wow. Wow. This is the best risk lesson I ever had. And by the way, at Oliver Wyman, we were doing a lot of risk work. I so wish I had met you at that point of time, Mark. I could barely understand risk when my sort of experts were explaining it to me. You know, we're coming to an end, and how about wrapping up with another sports example?
Exactly. I'd love to do this because, you know, this time, you know, I'm from England, okay? So this is the 2003 Rugby World Cup, okay? So rugby is not a game that's played by everybody all over the world, you know, like soccer and now more and more cricket, you know. So there's not billions of people playing rugby, but it's a great game, I think. This is the final of the Rugby World Cup. The match is being played in front of 82,000 spectators in Australia, and it's England versus Australia, which is England's sporting natural enemy, okay? So, you know, in cricket.
Yes, and there were 26 seconds left for the whistle to blow.
Okay, so we're just going to start. There's 66 seconds left in the game. It's a World Cup final, and I'm going to show you now world-class risk management and world-class risk management execution.
So give me a second. Let me bring it up. Here you go.
Get within drop goal position and let the little maestro have a slot.
They've gone long again. This time it works. Cat, come down. Has he protected the ball? He has indeed. Wilkinson right back in the pocket. And Dawson suddenly gets away. And that's done vitally well to bring him. Wilkinson is now perfectly in range. That has to be a penalty. He came up the side. Again, Wilkinson in the place. Johnny Wilkinson, he's done it! It's over at last at the fourth attempt. Johnny Wilkinson is on target. England in the lead with only 20 seconds to go.
Had to be, take the yardage, set him up, he won't miss, he won't keep missing. Now a crucial kick-off, that's the drop goal.
England have got it. It's time up. They must just make sure they don't give away a penalty. Clear to touch. You don't care where it goes. Touch, put it in. England have won the 2003 World Cup. The ticker tape comes down. The fireworks were right on cue.
Wow.
I'll make a few just quick remarks there, and if you've got the chance maybe to watch that clip again sometime. Rugby is a real team game, okay? Replace the word rugby with risk management, okay? Risk management is a real team game. Possession is key, okay, in rugby. So that is your edge. If you have the ball and you manage the downside risk, all right, so you know you have a portfolio of assets. You know what's in your portfolio. You have the ball. You manage the downside risk. You take sensible decisions, risk management decisions when you're playing rugby at that world-class level. Teacup, thinking clearly under pressure. Okay, so if you watch that clip over again, you had to throw the ball in straight at the line out. You had to protect the ball, but you had to move forward because you had to get closer to the goalpost for Johnny to kick the winning points. You have to move forward in a controlled manner. Still a bit of room to surprise the opposition. You take some calculated risks. So you saw there the scrum half, he got on the little break. Martin Johnson, instead of passing it back, he went forward a little bit more. You manage the clock. So this longevity point, there's 66 seconds. You don't want to score the points straight away. You want to get close to the end and then score the points. Manage errors, okay? Johnny Wilkinson is the best, okay? But he kicks with his left foot, okay? If you watch that clip, he kicked that goal with his right foot. So what do you have to do? If you're naturally left-footed, practice kicking with your right foot, because you never know in the last seconds of the World Cup final. So work hard. And then after he kicked the goal, there was still 20 seconds left in the game, okay? So you've got that elation. We've got ahead, there's 20 seconds left. Surely we're going to win, but maybe not. So you have to calm down, manage the stress, okay? And when you make good decisions in risk management, sometimes after you made a good decision, if you don't manage the stress and the elation properly, you can make a bad one straight away. So the kickoff comes, the ball's coming back to you, catch the ball, pass the ball to the guy who can kick the ball well, Mike Catt, another rugby player, kick the ball out, clock runs down, end of the game, you're world champions, and then you can celebrate. Okay. All right, so rugby, well, and risk management, very close.
Lovely.
Fantastic, Mark. You should really think about choosing becoming a professor, as a real profession, Mark, not just, risk. The world needs you, seriously.
And you make it sound so simple.
Well,
Poonam would say she understands no maths. I'm sure you understood how to manage your finances today, Poonam.
Seriously, I understand no maths, but that was wonderful, honestly.
But
So
you
Mark,
know what?
before we,
for your nephew, for UV, okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes if you're just world class, I mean, what risks did he have to manage that day in Durban? He had to wake up on time. He had to make sure he got to the stadium. Probably somebody made sure he got to the stadium. He had to get ready, put on the stuff, and make sure the bat wasn't broken.
Yes.
And that was about it, really. So, if you're absolutely world-class talent, sometimes you just let him go,
And then he had to manage that spat.
Yes.
That led to the success.
With Freddie Flintoff, yes.
Yes.
But the reality is most of us are not world-class. I mean, we are good, but need not be geniuses and exceptional talent. So we have to, I think this is great, Mark, because it's not just about pursuing a career in risk management, but it's also about managing our own life, managing our own finances. I think all the principles you spoke about are so relevant. And all the MBA students or all the other students who want to get into risk management, reach out to me. There's an institution called GARP, which gives certifications in risk management, and students, if you can get it, you can get jobs in the best banks of the world. Mark has been a trustee with GARP, and Shulini is signing a MOU with GARP hopefully soon. So would love to help you. Reach out to me if you want to know more about career and risk management. Before I close, we also have two cancer survivors with us. You spoke about health as a big risk. So we all know, Poonam, you're a cancer survivor twice over. So are you, Mark. Poonam, you want to ask a couple of questions on that to Mark?
Yes, in fact, the other day when I first spoke to Mark, I was talking about UV, and then I told Mark that, UV and I have something else in common apart from our being related, that we both are cancer survivors. And then Mark said, so is he. So having managed the risk factor for so many people around you, were you prepared for this risk in your life, Mark?
No, of course not. we always think about things, you know. And again, I said it earlier on. I think men more than women actually, they have something on the list of things to do, okay, but it doesn't always get to top of the list, okay. So one of the luckiest thing that happened to me was my eldest son getting married to his lovely wife, who's from Wales, okay. So I've got the whole of the United Kingdom in the family, and I was being fitted for the morning suit for the wedding, and I'd lost a lot of weight, which is a warning sign. But you know, I'd been exercising, so you know that's why I was losing weight.
So you thought weight because of that?
Yeah. So we did all the measurements, and the measure for the neck was a lot bigger than normal, and I said, oh, maybe it's this thing here. And my son went, what? You know, go get that checked out. I got it checked out, and as I think a lot of people know, with the number of cancers and metastasizing cancers, it's a race against time. So yes. I was lucky. I was very lucky, and I was also lucky that the primary tumor was nearby the metastasized tumor. So that was the second piece of luck. But maybe I made some luck by going around the world to find the best surgeon and interviewing who could help me. And I luckily found a fantastic German guy working in Switzerland who saved my life. The message to all, particularly the men out there, if you have anything that you feel a bit strange and it doesn't hurt, go and get it checked. Go and get it checked.
Well, that's a prudent risk management too. I think that's true for men and women. We have a couple of questions here very quickly. We'll pick them up. I have my very dear friend Anurag Chaudhary writing from London. So he's ex-Citi and used to be a senior banker with them. He used to, I think, run their trade business. So his question to you, Mark, is, he says, what would you have done differently if you were in your early 20s and starting your career in financial services in 2020?
Well, that actually happened. I did have a choice. So when I was in my early 20s, just leaving university, I was offered a job as a computer programmer in technology at a telecommunications company. If I'd taken that opportunity, my life would have gone in a different direction. I would have met my wife, you know, all those things. So if it's 2020, I think I might look towards technology company, but you know, a lot of technology companies now have financial services offshoots. So that's what I might have done different. The reason I didn't take the job was because it was a 2-hour commute on the subway, and I didn't want to do. And I had to start quite early, so I didn't want to do that, which is a bad reason. But that's why I didn't take that job.
I think those are the, you know, I have to tell this to everyone. When I was after my 12th and I had to choose my university, I wanted to learn swimming, so I went to the university that had the largest swimming pool. So it's even a worse decision than the way you thought about it.
The subway.
So Manish Mishra, who heads placements at Shulani and works with students, is asking, how do you manage reputational risks?
You see, I go back to this style drift point. So if you can work out in life where you have an edge, where you have an advantage because you've studied, you're experienced, you've researched, then you're less likely to run into reputational risks than moving into an area which looks good, but I haven't really researched it much, but I'm a successful guy over here, so I can be a successful guy over there. And if you don't know in detail, you can run into reputational problems. With money, I mean, it's now been realized, and actually the chief risk officer of Deutsche Bank, Stu Lewis, is a great guy. He said, non-financial risks have been managed less well compared to so-called non-financial risks, so reputational risks, money laundering, things like that, than the financial risks. And I think that's key. And it's as important when somebody wants to open an account in a bank with some money that you find out where the money came from than making the overdraft credit decision. You know, somebody you know really well, should I lend them, should the bank lend them a few £100, a few $100 or something to get through the next month?
No, so true. I think it's also true for charity, and Poonam will smile. You know, there was one gentleman who wanted to give a few $1 million to Shulini.
Yes.
And we were so excited. We later on figured out that this particular individual was not of the right genetic code that we wanted. So we could have been in real trouble. So absolutely, I think when you're accepting money, it's also about the source of that money, which is so important. There's one more question from Amar Rao before we close. Amar is a professor of finance at Shulini. I don't know how much you know about stress in the Indian financial system, Mark, but his question is, stress tests of Indian banks are showing lots of liquidity issues because of COVID-19. What's the way out for them?
Face up to the risks that you have in front of you. Don't hope that they will reduce or go away. Certainly for internal purposes, management purposes, try and value those risks as carefully and as accurately as you can. Sometimes be circumspect about the way you disclose those risks to stakeholders, but face up to it. And if you're good and everybody's working hard, you can normally get through most problems in life, I think.
Thank you, Mark. What a charming session and what an informative session. We had more than 500 people across the world, across the different channels, listening to you. Before we close, I have one last question, and this is also outside the script, so hopefully you won't mind.
No.
Your last thoughts about anything, but you only have one sentence to make your last thoughts.
The US election in November is important for people involved in the financial markets.
Okay. So I wouldn't ask you
maybe the only thing that's important.
So are you pro or anti-Trump?
Policies, I'm pro, and I'll leave the answer at that.
Okay. Poonam, last thoughts from you.
Yes, amazing, Mark. And my last thought with you is that you talked about the 3 L's, right? Liquidity, longevity, and the legacy.
Yeah.
Were you only referring to financial legacy? Would you say that we need to, leave a legacy of some real values for our children and grandchildren added to the financial legacy or whatever?
I think so. I try to not make it too obvious, but for me, you have risks in your life. You have things that you want in your life and need in your life, and for yourself, your family, your friends, your loved ones. So legacy, if you can do it, is important. However you leave a legacy, it could, obviously can be financial, but there's lots of other things that you can leave to your families and your loved ones.
Something to remember you by. Yeah. Amazing. Thanks a ton. I mean, it has been so wonderful. And right from the time I chatted up with you for the first time, I went back to Atul and I said, he's such a wonderful guy. And, just connecting with you was amazing. And today's session was also outstanding. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Mark. I will end by saying we are living in risky times. There is a big risk coming from COVID. So everyone in this audience, please, please, please take care, be safe. With a lot of pain, I have to tell you that one of my very dear classmates from college died of COVID 2 days back. Unbelievable, but it can happen to anyone. So what we learned from Mark is also about, a good risk manager would also keep away from obvious risks. So we know that there's an obvious risk out there. So let's just be careful, all of us. So be safe, but be happy also. Don't worry too much. Hakuna Matata. We also have to be happy and live life in the right way. So once again, thank you very much, Mark. We have to come to Romania. I think you were not this charming when you were in Switzerland. So I think it's also the Romanian effect and also, of course, the family, the beautiful family you have.
And he's also near the beach and the mountains. So I think it's really worth it. Yeah, you were telling me about it.
That's true. That's true. But listen, thank you very much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And I really enjoyed getting to know all of you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, Mark, and everyone have a great day. I'll give you a call immediately after this. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.